Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today is December 19th. Michael King is staying put with the Padres and plenty more signings. Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. My name is Steven. This is the middle of the order. How are we doing today, ladies and gentlemen? It is almost Christmas. We are gearing up for plenty of big moments in sports, including the ending of the NFL season. We're getting close to the midway points of the NHL and NBA seasons. And of course, we are less than 100 days away from opening day for MLB baseball. It's why we're here to talk about the off season, as well as the World Baseball Classic stuff that will be happening come March. But for now, we'll be talking about the moves that have happened, and the biggest one from the week is Michael King. He is re-signing with the San Diego Padres, and the deal is a little bit complicated, so stay with me here. Michael King is back on a 3-year, $75 million deal. However, he has a player option for both 2027 and 2028. So what you need to know about his financials, because we love to be up in their personal business, he's getting paid $9 million for this year to pitch for the Padres in 2026. Then, if he decides to opt out of his deal after this year, he would be passing up on 2 years and $58 million. He would get a $5 million buyout and head back into free agency for 2027. However, if he decides to stay with the Padres in 2027, there is no $5 million buyout, and he is getting paid $32 million to pitch for the Padres in 2027. In 2028, he again has the option to opt out. This year, there is no buyout. So if he decides to opt out of the deal, he won't get anything for leaving. If he ends up staying, he would be getting paid $34 million for 2028. And that's how you get the total 3-year, $75 million. So $9 million this year, $32 million next year, $34 million the year after that. If he opts out after this year, he's passing up on 2-year, $58 million deal. And why is he such a pretty pitcher and such an expensive pitcher for the San Diego Padres? Is because he's been very good for them. In case you forgot, Michael King was once a member of the New York Yankees. Not only was he a member, he wasn't even part of the rotation. He was a bullpen piece for the Yankees. He had made a couple of starts here and there in a couple of years, but was more so a back-end reliever. When he moved over to the Padres last year in 2024 as a part of the Juan Soto trade, he got turned into a starter. The Padres wanted him to be a starter, and he delivered phenomenally. He went 13-9 with a 2.91 ERA. He had a 4.1 WAR, his career high, and in 31 games, he pitched 30 starts, so he had one bullpen appearance, and he had 201 strikeouts, finished 7th in Cy Young voting. This year was definitely not as good, but the Padres had a lot of issues with their rotation this year in terms of health and injuries, and he was one of those guys. He only made 15 starts this year, did pitch for a complete game shutout, had a 3.44 ERA, a 5-3 record with 76 strikeouts in 73 innings. So definitely limited by those injuries. But in total, in those 2 years with the Padres, a 3.10 ERA, an 18-12 record, 277 strikeouts. When you combine that with the career that he's had, I mean, he's a career 3.24 ERA kind of guy. Like, he is limiting the ball, and now as a rotation member, he's doing everything he can. And of course, the Padres losing Yu Darvish to Tommy John surgery, so they need all the pitching they can get. Michael King is a guy who, again, when healthy, can be one of the dominant aces of baseball. And he might just end up being the Padres ace come the beginning of the season. I mean, Joe Musgrove should be healthy, I want to say, depending on his recovery stature. But would he be good to go opening day to make the start? I don't know. It's either then Nick Pivetta or Michael King as it stands. So between those three guys, I would give the ball to Michael King on opening day. I think he makes the most sense here. So the Padres just got their ace of the rotation for $9 million this year, and 30 plus millions in the following years. I would expect Michael King to stay in those contracts and in the deals here. I mean, walking away from $58 million over the next 2 years, that's a pretty big walk. You got to have a really good 2026 and to really bet on yourself for a longer contract. Of course, Michael King, he's been pitching in the year for 7 years. He's going to be 31 this year, so he could still be looking for like a 4 or 5 year contract. I'm sure he would take a little bit less AAV to find that deal. But, I mean, worst case scenario, if you stay in these 2 years, you get nearly $60 million. And then you walk out back into free agency when you're 33 years old, 34 years old. You could still find a 3-year deal with similar AAV. So it'll be interesting to see what Michael King decides to do after this season. If he stays in for 2027, I would find it really difficult for him to leave for 2028. I mean, you're walking away from guaranteed $34 million. It just seems unlikely, but we've been surprised before with players and their decisions. Maybe something goes terribly wrong with the Padres and he doesn't want to stay there. Bridges get burned. Who knows exactly, but that is the Michael King situation. Padre fans, I'm sure, are glad to have him back. Speaking of the Padres, they're not done, though. They also went out and signed, I'm going to butcher this, Sung-Mun Song. He's an infielder from the KBO. It's a 3-year deal with an unknown value amount just yet, but we do know the length of the contract, 3 years. We know where he's from, the KBO. We know he's an infielder. What else do you need to know about this guy? Well, he's going to be 29 years old as he enters to Major League Baseball for the first time in his career. He's been playing with the KBO since he was 18, way back in 2015. He had a couple years where he missed because of injuries and other dilemmas there. But when he has been healthy, when he has been on the field, he has played 9 seasons in the big leagues there with 824 games. He's got 818 hits, 80 home runs, a 283 batting average, and a career 779 OPS. Really solid numbers for him. Of course, you know how some players come over from the KBO or the Japanese league. They struggle to adjust, and then, you never know what happens. But sometimes they also figure it out, and it's perfect and everything, and the situation goes grand. If you want to take a shorter sample size, the last 2 years that he's played, he has 180 hits, both years essentially, 179 in 2024 and then 181 in 2025. He also has bumped up those home run numbers. I talked about how he has 80 in his career. He had 19 in 2024 and 26 in 2025. His batting average, 340, 315. His OPS, 927, 917. So these last 2 years, he's really figured it out. His numbers have been better and better. And I wish we could say more about him as a whole, but I'm not very familiar with his game. We don't know the contract details. We do know what that could mean for, let's say, a Padres lineup. Because he is an infielder, we know he's going to play one of the infield positions there. And because Luis Arias is no longer on the team, you could expect him to kind of be not the replacement, but, the replacement. He's not going to be Luis Arias where he's not striking out and just getting hit in left, right, and center. But he is a left-handed batter. He is probably going to play second base because, you got Bogarts at short and then Machado at third. And then Cronenworth at first still. I think that's the move there, unless you put Song at first base and put Cronenworth back at second. Whatever's a better defensive situation there. But yeah, Padres bulking up once again. They've picked up their ace and king. They bring in Sung. Mun Song. That's the name. So yeah, 3-year deals. Hopefully by the next time we have an episode, we'll have the valued amount here. But for now, that's all we can go off of. That's all we can say about this man. And the Padres hopefully continue to make some moves and make things happen here. And I'm currently looking and refreshing pages here, but I believe we may have something live for I think the first time this offseason here while recording episodes. I believe that the Pirates are trading for Brandon Lowe from the Tampa Bay Rays, and that is not it. You've got a 3-team trade revolving the Astros, Pirates, and Rays that would send Brandon Lowe to Pittsburgh, Mike Burrows to Houston, and Mason Montgomery to Pittsburgh. Let's see here. We're going to read this out loud. This is coming from Chandler Rome and Ken Rosenthal of course, The Athletic. If completed, so I'm not sure if it's finalized or not, the deal would send second baseman Brandon Lowe to Pittsburgh and right-hander Mike Burrows to Houston. Brandon Lowe would be moving from the Rays to the Pirates, while Mike Burrows would be moving from the Pirates to Houston. Outfielder Jacob Melton and right-hander Anderson Brito would be the 2 prospects that would go to the Rays. I believe those are both from the Astros organization. And then Rosenthal adds that outfielder Jake Mangum and left-hander Mason Montgomery would go to the Pirates. It's unclear if the deal is complete or not, or if other pieces would be involved. The Astros aren't going to acquire anyone apart from Burrows. So what I'm reading here is the Pirates are sending Mike Burrows to the Astros in exchange for Jacob Melton and Anderson Brito, who they're then sending those 2 players to Tampa in exchange for Brandon Lowe, Jake Mangum, and Mason Montgomery. This is a big trade if it goes down. That would be quite the crazy deal here. Let me just pull up Brandon Lowe here and see what I can get on him really quickly. Of course, Brandon Lowe, I love Brandon Lowe. He's one of my top 20 players in baseball. He was definitely my favorite Ray for the longest time. I mean, this guy's got 2 All-Stars in the bat. He finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting back in 2019. He has 2 top 10 finishes in MVP voting in 2020 and 2021. He's been with the Rays all 8 years of his career, where he's accumulated 17.8 WAR with 657 hits, 157 homers for a career 247 batting average and an 807 OPS. I mean, this guy's legit. Second baseman, left-handed power. Again, 2-time All-Star. He going over to Pittsburgh, that is a big move, going from one poverty franchise to another poverty franchise for in his case. That is interesting. The Pirates are only giving up Mike Burrows if this is the deal. Let me see here. See, the thing with me is that Brandon Lowe, I think he's in a contract year. I think this is like a 1-year rental. I forget when he signed with the Rays. He signed with the Rays on a 6-year deal worth $24 million. The club option's been picked up both last year and this year. So yes, the Pirates, if this trade is correct and if it is finalized, the Pirates would owe him $11.5 million in 2026, and then he would be a free agent entering 2027. So this is for a 1-year deal. Yeah, for the Rays, it's more steps backwards from 2020. I think Brandon Lowe was the last piece on that team. Now that I think about it, was Brandon Lowe the nail in the coffin for the 2020 Rays team that was facing the Dodgers in the World Series that year? Of course, that was the COVID year. I believe, no, Yandy Diaz. Yandy Diaz is now the only player remaining from the 2020 Tampa Bay Rays that took the Dodgers to the World Series. Yeah. So the Pirates will send right-handed Mike Burrows to the Astros and receive Brandon Lowe, Jake Mangum, and Mason Montgomery. The Rays send Brandon Lowe. Yeah, okay. And then they're receiving Jacob Melton and right-hander Anderson Brito from the Astros. So yeah, that's the news here. That's the trade. I'm gonna keep an eye on this to see if it expels into anything else, if there's any other players involved. But for now, that's what we've got here for a 3-team trade. If we end this episode and there's nothing else that comes from it, but then it comes out that the trade got canceled or something happened and yada yada, we'll obviously bring it up on the next episode. But for now, that is what we have, is that Brandon Lowe is heading over to Pittsburgh. And I mean, you got to feel good-ish if you're a Pirates fan. I mean, they're doing something. They're making moves here. This is definitely a deal that, cost them to spend a little bit of money. Obviously, 11.5 mil isn't, anything crazy. But you're also getting Jake Mangum, who turned out to be a very solid-ish outfielder for them at times last year, as well as a bullpen piece in Mason Montgomery, who, again, was a solid piece. I mean, the Pirates are getting a 2-time All-Star and 2 very young, talented-ish players, and all they're sending away is Mike Burrows, and they're gonna have to cough up some money. So you gotta feel good at that point. That's the step in the right direction. I mean, you can't just take one giant leap in a faith here. You gotta take those small little steps to really create a foundation here. And this is a really good first step. So, congrats Pittsburgh. Brandon Lowe, hopefully, you can have a productive year in Pittsburgh, because, boy, they need you, and, boy, you need to have a really good contract year here. So this could be a win-win. The only team that I'm not so sure about is the Rays here, but, you're in a tough East Division. You're probably not going to win it anyways. Might as well save some money and do some other stuff here. I don't know. Moving on here. So that was unwanted. Not unwanted. It's cool. The Phillies. We got to talk the fighting Phils, because they have gone out and signed a couple of pieces. They have signed Adolis Garcia to a 1-year, $10 million deal, as well as Brad Keller to a 2-year, $22 million deal. So the Phillies getting active in the mix here. Adolis Garcia, if you don't know the name, then you might have not been watching baseball in 2023, because this guy was everywhere that year. Picked up his second All-Star appearance, finished 14th in MVP voting, won a Gold Glove, and had plenty of fantastic moments that took his Texas Rangers to their franchise's first ever World Series World Series win that year, and that was in 2023. And I say second All-Star because he was also an All-Star in 2021, where he finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting. So from 2021 to 2023, you could not go a season without talking about Adolis Garcia. This guy was in the mix for things. 2024, definitely a step back, coming off, a World Series hangover for sure. His OPS went from 836 in 2023 to 684. He went from 39 home runs to 25 home runs. His batting average dropped from 245 to 224, and it was definitely a tough year for him. This year was a little bit better, but not by much. He ends up with 19 home runs, which is a career worst for him. 75 RBIs, which was a career worst for him. 115 hits, a career worst. 135 games, which again is a career worst. A 227 batting average, which is 3 points higher than it was in 2024. But his OPS fell even more, from 684 down to 665. A really tough year. The regression kept showing. The Rangers, with team control, decided to say no thank you, sent him into the free agency market, and the Phillies are going to take a chance on him. It's a pretty big chance when you think of 1 year, $10 million. But again, This guy is an ALCS MVP. He's a two-time All-Star, Gold Glove. He was one homer shy of 40 homers in 2023. That's only 2 or 3 seasons removed when you think about it. 107 RBIs. Across a 7-year big league career, he's got 15 WAR. He's got 675 hits, 141 homers, 459 RBIs, and a 734 OPS. The question that you got to ask if you're Philly and if you have to go going forward here is those 3 years from 21 to 23, they were amazing years from Adolis Garcia. 31 homers, 39 homers, 27 homers. You got 741 OPS, 836 OPS. Like, you had really solid years. The last 2 years is what hurts him, when you're not getting that offensive production. And again, he's not just offense. He does have the Gold Glove as well, but a big part of his game was the bat. It is the power stroke that he had. And the last 2 years, we haven't seen it. He's a little bit on the older side already. He's entering his 8th year in the big leagues, and he's going to be 33 years old. So that's something to kind of keep in mind here, but hopefully it works out, and hopefully he can figure out what exactly was the issue the last couple of years and can go back. On the bright side, if you're Philly, I mean, this is a move where you still have a guy like, Brandon Marsh and there's outfield options there for Phillies. And if you get the best case scenario of Adolis Garcia, you throw him in the mix of Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. I mean, you're getting an elite right-handed power bat if, again, he can find that form, kind of get back to 2023 Adolis. And that would be a huge move for the Phillies that way. They not only bolster up with the bat in the lineup, they bolster up with Brad Keller in the pen as well. 2 years, $22 million. If you remember, Keller came up with the Royals, had plenty of time there after his 6 years there, ends up with the White Sox, where he wasn't great, ends up with Boston, where he wasn't great. Last year, got a chance to perform with the Cubs, and boy, did he perform. With the Royals, he was a starter. Now he is a bullpen piece. He comes out of that bullpen, and man, can he handle himself. In 68 games last year, pitched 69 innings in 2/3, so nearly 70 innings. He pitched to a 2.07 ERA. He only gave up 16 earned runs, only 4 home runs, striking out 75 batters. Easily his most impressive year of his career, and I say that having an 8-year career. I mean, his time with the Royals, there were some ups and some downs. His first year was arguably one of his best years with the Royals, 41 games, 20 of which were starts. Then in 2019, he made 28 starts, all from the rotation. Those 2 years were the best 2 years of his career at the time. In total, 7.2 WAR. Since then, it's been less than 2, including last year. Of course, it's different when you're a rotation starter versus a bullpen piece, but a 2.07 ERA is extremely impressive, especially across, again, nearly 70 innings of work. So the Phillies always need to be bolstering up that bullpen arm. We saw the bullpen kind of have its issues in the postseason this year. You can never have too many bullpen pieces. Or can you, is what I should say here. But Brad Keller is making his way to the Fightin' Phils after a fantastic year with the Cubs. Good for him. And if you thought we were done talking about the Phillies, you would be mistaken, because I said that you can never have too many bullpen arms. Well, I guess in the Phillies case, maybe you can. They're making a swap with the Kansas City Royals, who we talked about, being the team who have, drafted and brought up Brad Keller. Royals and Phillies have made a trade, and they're essentially swapping bullpen pieces here. The Royals are getting the bigger name in Matt Strahm. The left-handed pitcher is heading over to Kansas City, while the Phillies are getting a newly fresh young kid in Jonathan Bowlen. We'll start with Strom, who enters his last year of his contract. He is a one-time All-Star that happened in 2024 where he was fantastic. He pitched a 1.87 ERA that year with 66 appearances. Last year with the Phillies wasn't as sharp, but still extremely effective. And again, in 66 games, pitched to a 2.74 ERA. So again, a little bit worse. Pitched nearly the exact same amount of innings. He got one more out in 2024 than he did in 2025. Pitched the exact same amount of games. He gave up 6 more earned runs this year versus last year. That's the difference in nearly a 0.9 difference in the ERA. But again, those 2 years back to back, pretty consistent stuff. Overall, you're happy with that. He's effective and he's left-handed. So there's a lot of check marks and a lot of boxes that he checks for the Kansas City Royals. Again, 10-year career. He's going to be 34 years old. He's got the time there. He's actually coming back to Kansas City. He actually started his career with Kansas City, including his first ever big league appearance, his big league year in 2016 with the Royals. He played in 21 games and pitched to a 1.23 ERA. The Royals thought they had something. Next year, pitches to a 5.45 ERA, says no thank you. They send him off. He ends up on the Padres for 4 seasons before getting a chance with Boston, where he really showed his form in 50 games with Boston, pitched to a 3.83 ERA before finding a home with the Phillies for the last 3 seasons. And now we'll finish up that contract back where it all started, in Kansas City for his 11th season in the big league. Good stuff there for Strom. And the Royals continue to be a productive team this offseason, continue to make their team better and better. They're going to have the division in their sights for 2026. Let's talk about Jonathan Bowlen, who is the guy the Phillies are getting back. He had 3 games in 2023 and 2024 combined. Last year was his first official kind of welcome to the big leagues, where he played in 34 games, 33 of which were out of the bullpen, did have 1 start. He had a 1-2 record. He had 1 win, 2 losses, his first career win. Ended up with a 3.86 ERA in 44 and a third innings pitched, gave up 19 earned runs and 46 strikeouts. So the Phillies, you're trading away Strom, who has been consistent, is worth a pretty penny at times. And you're getting a guy who isn't pre-arb, so you're paying him league minimum stuff. And there's upside there. 28 years old, a 3.86 ERA. If he can replicate that, for another season, another 2 or 3 seasons, you're going to take that if you're Philly. This is a really solid move here. Again, he is right-handed versus Strom being left-handed. But yeah, so you swap Strom for Bowlen, you bring in Keller. The bullpen starts to shape up a little bit if you're Phillies. You bring back Schwarber. You sign Garcia. So the Phillies have definitely been making some moves this offseason. Good for them and good for the Royals. I think this could be a win-win kind of trade. The Royals are getting something they need, which is more of a guy who's league proven, trying to get the win now, while the Phillies are trying to save some money elsewhere so they can address other needs of an already great team with a good bullpen. So yes, I think the Royals obviously got the better player on paper right now. Of course, Bowlen could become the best relief pitcher the next 3 years, if all we know. But this seems like it's a win-win trade, and those are the best kinds of trades where both teams get what they need out of it and they go their separate ways. So done and dusted. We have plenty more signings to talk about here, but the bigger ones we'll talk about. First one being Ha-Seong Kim. The Braves are re-signing him to a 1-year, $20 million deal. Whoa. There might be more to talk about, more trades and stuff. Ha-Seong Kim. If you remember, he came over from the KBO back in 2021 with the Padres. He became a guy for them, so much so that he ended up needing to leave. He ended up signing with the Rays in 2025 and then ended up getting traded to Atlanta this year. So across the time with the Rays and the Braves, of course, he was hurt entering the beginning of this year and the end of 2024. That's why the Padres ended up letting him go. He ended up only playing 48 games, 24 with the Rays and 24 with the Braves. But this year picked up 40 hits in 171 at-bats, a 234 batting average, a 649 OPS, 5 home runs. Not a great year, but again, was hurt, dealing with a lot of injuries. What we've seen from this guy, I mean, his best year came probably in 2023, where he had a 260 batting average, a 749 OPS. He was an MVP. He was not an MVP. He finished 14th in MVP voting, as well as winning a Gold Glove, had 140 hits, a career high in hits, a career high in homers with 17, a career high in RBIs with 60. So that's the kind of upside that you get for bringing in an infielder here. His defense is solid. He'll get, he'll scrape by with some hits here. And I think his vibes are just great. I'm a big fan of Ha-Seong Kim. I think the Braves kind of saw what his potential is entering 2026 here. The injuries obviously were something that plagued him at times. Obviously for this season, but there is a lot of high potential that he brings to a team, and the Braves, of course, needing a shortstop, needing a guy they can more so lock up. That's the way it goes. So overall, really solid stuff. Good for the Braves and good for Ha-Seong Kim. I mean, $20 million. That's a pretty penny as well. So good stuff for both those guys. We got to talk about the Mets and Luke Weaver here, but I do want to mention right now, from the corner of my eye, I appear to see that Baltimore is trading for Shane Baz of the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are continuing to shed some payroll here. Oh my God. Okay, well, there it is. More breaking news. I believe the Tampa Bay Rays are trading away Shane Baz. We're not sure what the Rays would get in return. Obviously, a prospect kind of bundle here. But yeah, so in the span of what is this episode and what is me recording, the Rays have been a part of 2 major trades. Again, I don't think... Okay, the Astros, so the 3-team Astros, Pirates, Rays trade, that has been agreed on according to various reports. So that is finalized. The Pirates are getting Brandon Lowe, Jake Mangum, and Mason Montgomery for the Rays, while sending Mike Burrows to the Astros, who the Astros are receiving in exchange for Jacob Melton and Anderson Brito, who they sent to the Rays, who they get in exchange for Lowe, Mangum, and Montgomery. But now this trade, we don't know exactly who Baltimore is sending back Tampa's way, but the Rays send over a division rival, by the way, both in the same AL East, Shane Baz, who we have seen as a top prospect and a top guy for the Tampa Bay Rays. We haven't really seen him tap into it, though. 2021 was his first taste in the big leagues. Small stints here and there in 2021 and in 2022. Then he dealt with an injury in 2023 and did not play. Then in 2024, he came back from that injury, and that was the big sample size that we kind of got to see from him. In 14 games, he had a 3.06 ERA, a 2.2 WAR, and we were like, okay, this is finally the guy that we've been teasing the last 2-3 seasons. Like, Shane Baz is here. He is a guy for the Rays. And then last year was his first official full season in the big league. So up until that point, up until this year, across 4 seasons, he had 1 season hurt, and then he had only pitched in 23 games across 3 other seasons. This year, he played all 31 games. He was healthy, made 31 starts. He was 10-12 with a 4.87 ERA, 166 innings with 90 earned runs, 176 strikeouts. So definitely showed the signs of now being healthy, just kind of lost some of that a potential prospect that we saw from him when his name first came up in with the Tampa Bay Rays here. So, I mean, again, this is on the spot. I don't have much else to say about it besides some of the numbers and what it means for teams. Obviously, Baltimore, they need to keep adding rotation arms. They sent away Grayson Rodriguez, and now they're bringing in Shane Baz. So they're not taking a chance on him, but they're going to take a chance on Baz. Interesting to say the least here. But, I mean, for the Rays' perspective, like, we're taking steps back, but you signed Cedric Mullins. You signed Jake Fraley. You got him off of waivers, I should say. You still have Jonathan Aranda, who had a career year. Junior Caminero just seems to be getting better and better. He had plenty of homers. You still have Josh Lowe. You got Chandler Simpson. Like, they have a kind of youngish core here. You look at the rotation, you sign Steven Matz. Now you bring in, Shane McClanahan should be healthy for the first time in who knows how long. And, he's been electric when he has been healthy. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. You mix that up with Ryan Pepio, Drew Rasmussen. Like, they're still a team here, but they're also shedding away Lowe. Now they're shedding away Baz. Like, is this going to hurt them, hinder them? I don't know what people are saying. If they like the deal, if you're a Rays fan, sound off in the comments. Do you like that the Rays are making these kinds of moves and bringing in prospects, or would you rather have Brandon Lowe? Would you rather have Shane Baz? I don't mind the Shane Baz move as much. I think Brandon Lowe is a big name and a big guy to send over to the Pirates here. But the thing about the Baz thing is that it's in your division. So now you have to go and face him. If you ever face him when you play Baltimore, you got to win those games. You can't be losing to him on the mound here. But yeah, so the Rays are making moves here. And we have the return package here according to, I don't know exactly, Ken Rosenthal. The Rays will be getting outfielder Slater DeBron, catcher Kadine Bodine, right-hander Michael Forret, outfielder Austin Overn, and a competitive balance round A draft pick. That is a very hefty price. Shane Baz for 4 prospects and a draft pick in competitive balance round A, which is the first competitive balance round. That is a lot of stuff. So, I mean, that is something to be happy about. I guess on that regard, I mean, this trade is a lot of a better trade for the Rays than the Brandon Lowe trade. That's just off my mind, seeing it firsthand, etc. But yeah, wow. That is a hefty move there for Baltimore. A pretty price to pay. Anyways, let's get back on track here, get back into the swing of things, because I had to mention that Luke Weaver is signing with the Mets. Yes, another Yankee is going to the Mets. We talked about Soto last year. We talked about Devin Williams already. Now you bring in Luke Weaver. So again, the Mets, we talked about a couple times in the last couple episodes, losing out on guys like Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso. Replacing Diaz with Weaver and Williams, is a little bit better. Of course, Luke Weaver, it's a 2-year, $22 million deal. He's coming off a tougher year with the Yankees. Still was okay for them last year, a 3.62 ERA in 64 games. The difference is, he gave up one less earned run that he did in 2024. However, he also pitched a lot less. In 62 games last year, he played in 84 innings, while in 64 games this year, played in 64 innings. So the 27 earned runs he gave up last year is good for a 2.89 ERA, while the 26 this year is why you get to a 3.62. He lost the closer role. He wasn't as effective. He was a big part of the Yankees in 2024, helping them get back to the World Series. He was one of the most trustworthy bullpen arms that season. This season, on the other hand, not as trustworthy as was many guys in that Yankees bullpen. Definitely had his moments where he was, locked down Luke Weaver that we had seen from 2024. But he had plenty of blunders as well, plenty of blown opportunities for him and for the Yankees. The first one that comes to mind is the grand slam he gave up to George Springer on Canada Day. That was when the Blue Jays swept them that series and eventually took over the AL East division that lead. They walked in down 3 games, walked out up 1 game after a 4-game sweep, and they never looked back. Until the last day of the season where they were tied. Regardless, Luke Weaver is a New York Met. The Mets trying to take more of the Yankees' toys. Of course, Weaver, I didn't realize this. Weaver's been around for a long time. He was 22 years old with the Cardinals. After going from the Cardinals, he then went to Arizona for a couple seasons before hanging with the Royals in 2022 for a little bit at the end of that year. Then in 2023, he jumped around from Cincy to Seattle to New York, where he had been with the Yankees the last 2 seasons. Now will be joining the Mets, which is his 7th team of his career, a career that has seen 10 years, 3.3 WAR, 4.74 career ERA across 723 innings with 746 strikeouts. I did not realize he had been around that long. He's going to be 32 this year. Still got some stuff in the tank, hopefully, is what the Mets are hoping for here. But 2 years, $22 million. That is what the New York Mets are sending for Luke Weaver to keep what is a New Yorker, essentially, from Yankees to the Mets. They keep that up. Moving on here, let's talk about John Means really quickly, because while perusing social media, it turns out that he had posted something across his social media feed. John Means suffered an Achilles rupture while training this season and working out in the off season here. He was very disheartening about it, especially because he was sharing news that he was very close to signing with a team that he was unable to disclose, obviously. And he was looking healthy, and he was looking ready to go for opening day 2026 for the first time in many years, and now he might not even pitch in 2026, let alone pitch again. Like, I don't know what this means for John Means. I mean, I remember this guy being the ace of a Baltimore team that had no Adley Rutschman, who had no Gunnar Henderson. They were last in the division, losing 100 and something games, but he was a saving part of those Baltimore teams here. He threw a no-hitter in, I think it was 2019 or 2021. I forget exactly the year. But since then, I mean, how many times have you seen John Means? He's been hurt. He had Tommy John. Then he finally rehabbed a little bit. He got on the mound for 3 or 4 starts, and then boom, elbow stiffness once again. Ends up needing another elbow surgery. Ends up signing a 2-year deal with Cleveland. He was rehabbing at the end of this year, but Cleveland didn't see enough of those rehab starts to keep him for that second year, so they tossed him back in the free agency pool. But he was looking good, looking healthy. He was ready. He was feeling it. He was about to sign, and then boom, Achilles rupture. Probably won't pitch this year. Maybe we'll sign with the team for another 2-year deal and maybe see what he's got, if he can rehab late, and then maybe they take up on a club option kind of thing. But I feel so bad for this guy. I mean, there's so many talented players that get, caught up in just injuries. And unfortunately for Means, he seems like he's one of those guys, and hopefully he's able to bounce back from this, and hopefully he's able to figure it out and to get healthy again and get back to being a pitcher that I know he can be, and I know the quality that he can bring. But yeah, for now, we're going to be John Meanless once again, but we'll see if he ends up still being able to sign with the team, maybe on a 2-year deal and figuring out the rest out from there. Moving on here, we got to talk about 1-year deals, because we're at that point where some of those veteran guys are signing their 1-year contracts with teams here. There's plenty of them, and I say plenty of them, it's a handful. We're going to talk about them very briefly. We're not going to go into too much detail about them. You guys can obviously do your homework if there's anyone you're interested in. There is one guy that I will talk about a bit more, though, because it's very much more of an interesting story, to say the least here. So let me go over these really quickly. First and foremost, the Twins. are signing Josh Bell to a one-year deal worth $7 million with a mutual option for 2027. So keep that in mind. Josh Bell will be a Minnesota Twin, probably the only Twin you might know on their team besides Byron Buxton. The Guardians are signing Sean Armstrong to their bullpen. It's a one-year deal worth $5.5 million with a mutual option for 2027. The Rangers are re-signing old man Chris Martin. It's a one-year deal with an unknown value at this point, but we know that Chris Martin will be back with the Rangers. Caleb Ferguson is signing a one-year deal with the Cincinnati Reds for $4.5 million. He's had an up-and-down career, both as a starter and in the bullpen. But he will be with the Reds for 2026. Jordan Romano is signing with the Angels on a one-year, $2 million deal. Romano, coming off an injured-filled year in 2024, ends up having one of the worst seasons of his career with the Phillies. Not a great year for him, and hopefully is able to rebound with the Angels. The Angels are taking on a bunch of reclamation projects, you could say, for 2025. Romano, Manoah, Grayson Rodriguez, the list goes on there. But Romano signs with the Angels. Andrew Kinsner is signing a one-year, $1 million deal with the Mariners, so a little backup catcher action there for him. At least it's a major league deal, so good for him. Jason Foley is signing with the Giants. It's a one-year, $2 million deal. There's a lot in the tank there. I like Foley a lot. I thought he was very good with the Tigers. For $2 million, I think the Giants are going to get their money's worth. It is a one-year deal, but it is, with his service time, he's in arbitration, so he is still on team control for another year or two afterwards. So even though it's a one-year deal, he is now linked with the Giants organization, and they'd have to do arbitration or non-tender him, etc. But he is with the Giants, as well as Adrian Hauser. This is a little bit of a bigger move here, you could say. Adrian Hauser is getting a 2-year deal worth $22 million with a club option for a third year that I believe would also be $11 million. I wrapped him in with this because I didn't have much to say on him, but Adrian Hauser, obviously came up with the Brewers, spent some time with the Mets, White Sox. Last year was with the Rays and White Sox. With the White Sox, he was great, had a 2.10 ERA in 11 starts. Then he moves over to the Rays this year, and then in the 10 starts with the Rays, ends up with a 4.79 ERA. Went from 16 earned runs to 30 earned runs. But on the total on the year, an 8-5 record, a 3.31 ERA in 21 starts, 125 innings, and 92 strikeouts. So Adrian Hauser will join the Giants rotation for the next 2 years and potentially third year if the Giants take the club option for 2028. And then the last deal here is Tyler Austin is signing a one-year, $1.25 million deal with the Cubs. He has not played Major League Baseball since 2019 when he was 27 years old. He debuted with the Yankees in 2016, spent some time with the Twins, with the Giants, and with the Brewers. And now, after a 5-year hiatus, is returning on a one-year, $1.25 million deal. So good for him. All the best luck for Tyler Austin and the Chicago Cubs. And maybe he's figured it out. Who knows? I don't know exactly where he's been, but good for him. Good for the Cubs. And yeah, who's excited to see Tyler Austin in the big 2026? Ladies and gentlemen, another lengthy episode, but we got it done. Big signings, big moves. You got Sung-Mun Song and Michael King to the Padres. The Phillies are getting Garcia, Keller, Bowlen. The Royals trade for Strom. Luke Weaver's a Met. Ha-Seong Kim with the Braves. Tristan McKenzie, I didn't mention him. He signed a minor league deal with the Padres. Maybe he figures it out there. Plenty of one-year deals and 2 breaking news trades with the Rays, as they have traded Brandon Lowe and Shane Baz away to the Pirates and O's. So a big episode here. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys for sticking with me, joining me on today's episode. I love you all. Thank you, buddy, so much. And I will see you next time.